Namaste, good morning, and I'm delighted to be here to speak on a subject that's very close to my heart, which is about strong, confident, capable women, women in leadership. Many of us here in this audience today embody that spirit, and I'm grateful to MS University Women's Studies Center and FGI for giving me this opportunity, and also to Dr. Singh, Geeta Goradia, Dr. Kapadia, Dr. Mehta, all of you for giving me this wonderful platform to launch my new book, which is on the subject of women entrepreneurs, Follow Every Rainbow. You know, I first started coming to Baroda because every time I would launch a new book, CrossFord would invite me to come to this city, and I was in fact delighted to find that on Sunday morning at CrossFord we had over 100 people coming for a book launch. So I definitely feel this is one of the most literary cities, most culturally aware cities, and definitely women in this city are most beautifully dressed. So after the event, you must give me the secret of where I can also go for shopping. When my first book was launched 5 years ago, Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish, and I did the program in Baroda. After the event, a lady came up to me and said, you know, I saw the poster at MS University, and so I decided to come for the book launch. Actually, originally, I thought the book is about dieting, but you know, it's actually very good. Your book is very inspiring, very interesting. I enjoyed the program. So I think with this new book of mine, Follow Every Rainbow, there is a similar misconception that this book is about women entrepreneurs, so it needs to be read by women. A lot of men come up to me whenever we have launched this book in Mumbai, Delhi, Hyderabad, and they say, can you please sign Dear Anu, Dear Anita, Dear Rita, Dear... I'm giving this gift, you know, to my wife, sister, cousin, colleague. So I say, sure, I will sign it, but tell me your name also because I want you also to read it. So the same way, the few brave men who've come today to attend this women leadership program, I would say that this book and any book I've written is not specifically for any gender. I mean, no doubt I never wanted to write a book on women entrepreneurs specifically. I started this journey, you know, writing inspiring stories of ordinary people who did extraordinary things. And in my mind, there was no gender bias. I was not looking for men or women. I was just looking for great stories. And that way, I wrote these 4 books. Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish, Connect the Dots, I Have a Dream, Poor Little Rich Slum. Each book had its own theme. And I went to many colleges and universities and spoke about, you know, leadership, entrepreneurship. I truly believe that men and women are as capable, as competent, as, you know, capable of leadership and entrepreneurship, and there's no gender specificity. But at one of the programs, a young girl came up to me and she said, ma'am, there are very few women in your books. So I did go back and see, and I found that's true. Maybe the way films represent society, maybe my books also in that way reflected the fact that women are there, but maybe they're a little less visible, they're less large in size, and I felt that, you know, 50% of our population is women, and maybe if I write a book which gives the, you know, inspiring stories of women who have started their own companies, it could help to motivate so many young women out there today. As all the speakers have pointed out, women are getting more and more education today, right? I mean, master's degree, PhD. There's no doubt that women are, you know, interested and they are pursuing higher education. But what happens 10 years later, 20 years later? How many of my own batchmates who studied with me at IIM Ahmedabad, my batch was actually an exceptional batch where we had 30 girls. We had twice the number of girls as the previous year. And from that year onwards, every year we had more and more women candidates. But soon we'll be going back for our 20-year reunion. And I find that a lot of very bright, very capable, very ambitious girls who were my classmates, they were not able to pursue a full-fledged corporate career. Each one has their own reasons. I believe each of us should have a choice. Surely there's nothing less beautiful about being a homemaker. My mother is a homemaker. A lot of wonderful women are homemakers. But if there is a woman who wants to have a home life and a career, she should be able to do it. She shouldn't be held back by the circumstances, by the lack of, support in the corporate world. I believe entrepreneurship is one such option that exists today, which will be taken up by more and more women as time goes by, because it gives you more flexibility and more meaning in your life. And well, to be honest, Dr. Joshi, I'm not a PhD. I've never been invited to speak at a symposium or a colloquium. My father is a PhD, he goes for many such events, but I don't have any academic studies to share. But as an author, as a journalist, I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of women and a lot of men, and a lot of, as I said, ordinary people doing extraordinary, beautiful, wonderful things. So I would just like to share a few stories, a few experiences which I had while writing this book. The first thing I decided when I'm going to write a book on women entrepreneurs is that I have to define who is a woman entrepreneur. A lot of magazines and newspapers, print lists of women achievers and entrepreneurs. And often I find that majority of the women in these lists have inherited their family business. I mean, no doubt it's a very new and wonderful trend that the family-owned businesses are passing on the mantle to the daughters. However, when I look at the ordinary woman, who's sitting in the local train, in the bus, who's my cousin, who's my neighbor, who's given up her job to take care of a small child, these kind of women cannot motivate them because they don't have a family business which they can take over. Second kind of women we read a lot about are the corporate CEOs, and no doubt that too is recent and very empowering trend, where we see that more and more women have climbed up the corporate ladder. Whether it's Chanda Kochar or Naina Lal or so many other big names in the corporate world. But again, that route is not open to every woman. So I wanted to really focus on the women who have started a business from scratch, who have had to go through what every entrepreneur has to go through. And when I started this exercise, the only name that actually came to mind was one person. I don't know if who is the name who comes to your mind as a self-made woman entrepreneur. Who's that? Yeah, that's true. But well, at that time I wasn't acquainted with Geeta Ben, but definitely in Baroda, she's the first name which will come to mind. In general, I think the name that came up was Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw. She's the first and last name which generally people think of in terms of women entrepreneurs who are self-made. And I think she's done a fantastic job. But I would say she had one small advantage. She chose not to marry and have children until very late. She didn't have children and she got married to a Scottish gentleman after the age of 40. Whereas most of our Indian women, they would have chosen a different path. By the age of 25, 26, 27, most of the girls in this audience will be married, they will have an Indian husband and Indian in-laws, and maybe they may even have a child on the way. And to manage all these equations and responsibilities, along with your own ambition of having a career or having a business, so that is the real challenge that we face. I don't think that there's anything else missing. I don't think that leadership quality is missing in any woman in this audience. But when you have to juggle so many different roles and responsibilities, a lot of women give up rather easily, or maybe they don't have the required emotional and moral support, which is so important, especially for women, for any entrepreneur, but more so for women, because we are so sensitive to the needs of our family and our community, And if it's necessary, we feel it's better that we should compromise and sacrifice rather than, cause hardship or grief to anybody else. So then who are the women I have featured in this book? So a journalist asked me recently, Madam, who are the famous women, who are the famous people in your book? I said, I don't know if any are famous, but surely when you read about them, you're going to, find the story so interesting and inspiring. And let me just give you one example. Has anybody heard of a lady whose name is Meena Bindra? You're right. So none of you have heard of her name, but I'm sure all of you have actually heard of her company. Many of you might be customers of her company. There is a store called Biba, which is there in all the shopping malls, and it's widely available. Now, she's not as famous as Ritu Kumar. Ritu Kumar everybody knows, but very few of us are wearing Ritu Kumar. Maybe once in a lifetime we go and buy for a very special occasion. But Biba is today the largest Indian brand which is selling the ready-made salwar kameezes. And this lady started her business at the age of 39. She was the wife of a naval officer, and she was never business-oriented or career-oriented. She was happy in her role as a homemaker and naval wife. But once her children grew up, she had a kind of a talent or interest in designing clothes. Whenever she wore clothes, people said, oh, it's wonderful, where did you get it? So just for fun, she thought, I'll do a little business, thoda pocket money milega, thoda kuch, time, she wanted to utilize her time. So this is how she started the business around 30 years ago, and with 8,000 rupees. And as I said, initially it was a hobby business. She was selling from home, but her clothes were so beautifully designed, they were so practical, they were so affordable that, just by word of mouth, her business started growing. And after some years, even stores started coming to her. Ready-made became popular. पहले तो लोग टेलर के पास जाते थे, फिर रेडीमेड का थोड़ा ट्रेंड हुआ. So shops like Benzer and those ones started coming up in Bombay. So they would come to her and say, please supply us. So business grew. Then a time came when she had 2 sons. So one of them completed graduation, and he said, I want to join your business. So she was quite shocked. She said, look, you don't know anything about salwar kameez, ye to ladkiyon ka kaam hai. What will you do in my business? And he said, no, I want to join. So he joined the business, and you see, any entrepreneur requires a team to grow. Now, it's not a one-man show where you can, grow and grow without help of other people. So once the one son joined, they were able to grow the business much larger because he could take care of some of the responsibilities, she could take care of some of them. And in this manner, after another few years, her second son also joined. And together, 3 of them grew this into a national brand, which is today, selling 300 crores worth of salwar kameez and has, 100 stores across the country. So I came upon this interesting trend where many women who started a business just as a hobby, as a passion, and family members supported them in the sense that ki mana nahi kiya. So theek hai karo. Why don't you start? Okay. Thoda bahut loss bhi ho jayega, chalega. So I don't know whether the support was so active, but it was not, they were not prevented from starting. And no doubt these women put in a lot of time and effort. I mean, even if you start a hobby business, once you start getting the orders, you have to deliver the, everything on time. You have to find more people to do work, you have to train them, you have to sit with them, you have to sit late hours. You have to do all the things that any entrepreneur would have to do, whether male or female. And in between, you have to manage the other roles that you have also. So I found this interesting trend where a lot of women would start a business after a few years. On sheer quality and determination, they've grown it to a level. And then the family members realize this has a lot of scope. So very often the sons and daughters will join. Sometimes husband will also quit his job and join. And together, they'll grow it into a very big company. And I somehow felt that these women really, they embody the spirit of Lakshmi. When woman comes to our home in India, we say, Ghar mein Lakshmi aayi hai. So together, they have included their family in the business and grown it and brought prosperity to their homes, to their community. And you see, it's very intelligent strategy because, see, any entrepreneur is obsessed with his or her business. Din mein raat mein sab, they're only thinking and dreaming business. Now, if I am doing the business and family is not involved, they're going to get upset. कि यार ये तो बस business में ही लगी हुई है. So once she has co-opted them into her business, it's everybody's business. So whether they're discussing on dining table or they're discussing in the garden while having tea, it becomes everybody's business. And I think one of the reasons we don't hear so much about these women is that they realize that, you see, it's not about projecting themselves. It's everybody's success. So that is the kind of inclusion that women bring to leadership. It's a different way of leading, but I think it's something that's worth thinking about. Second kind of women I've found, again, who are not necessarily, again, interested in getting into business. I mean, they are educated, they are capable, maybe they're doing some kind of small job, but they were not very ambitious and, wanting to set up a business of their own. But then some kind of a tragedy. Perhaps the husband died, or husband fell ill, or their family business collapsed. So something happened because of which the woman had to step in and take charge. She had to actually battle for her survival of her family, her children. And at this time, really a hidden power that she had within herself came to the fore. Probably this is what we all call as Shakti, and it all exists within us. But until, something happens which makes it apparent and visible, and, that force from within, it's activated because of circumstances. So these are the women I found, really to have qualities very similar to Durga, where we have a fighter spirit. And we also have a situation where, there is no restriction or, nothing holding them back, because all these social pressures and so on have gone away. So, although the circumstances under which they start may not be so good, but when they come into that role, they are definitely able to, take it on and do full justice to it. So some of the women I've featured in my book, I would say are more embodiment of Durga. And the third kind of women, I think many of whom would be in the audience since we are at a university, they are the Saraswatis. They are the women who are highly educated, professional women. They have the option of joining a corporate career and, doing that kind of a role where they climb up the corporate ladder, whether in any field, whether it's business or medicine or academics. However, for two reasons I find women decide to leave and start their own business. One could be that once they start a family, they find that corporate world or whichever organization they're working for is not very conducive or supportive to having a career and having a family. Little bit more of flexibility, little bit more of consideration that they would like is not present. And they find it very difficult to juggle both the roles, and finally, usually they will give up on the work and focus on the family. And secondly, a lot of women find that the job they're doing is quite meaningless. I'm working in some company, I'm selling credit cards, I'm doing sale of detergents, usse kya fayda hai, I mean, I'm doing it for a paycheck, but if there is no financial need as such, then just working for money is not enough for a woman. She needs to work for a purpose. She needs to work for something larger than herself. So for this reason also, many women, perhaps they have the option which men don't have, so they give up the job and they start their own companies. So these are the three kind of broadly women I have featured in the book. Not to say that every woman, of course, has little bit of Lakshmi, Durga and Saraswati in her, and this is just my way of providing a sort of a framework to various stories that I've seen and which I'm relating to inspire young women, but older women also, because one thing I found was that a lot of women actually come into their real self and they really blossom once they're more than 40 years old. There are several women in the book, who started out very, what we would call late in life, but it's not actually late. So So there is never an age for starting. If you start young, then yes, you may have to manage the years when your children are young by growing at a slower pace. And in those days, there are many women who told me that I used to only work during the school hours of my children, so I didn't grow my business so much when they were young. Others had a different way of doing it. Each one has their own philosophy, but I do feel that yes, with entrepreneurship you can have that little bit extra flexibility, which is often difficult if you are with an organization. Not that you don't have to work, you have to work very hard. When my daughter was born in 1999, I didn't get any maternity leave and this and that. After 10 days, I used to leave her with my mother and go to office for 3 hours. So and around 45 minutes it takes to travel one way. Now it takes much longer, but in those days it took 45 minutes. And I never had that option of a long leave, but I could do things flexibly. And today, of course, with broadband, internet, mobile and so on, these options are even much more available. So apart from, women and leadership, I would just like to say that the, 3 key qualities that every leader has to have, and obviously every woman has to have, I believe. The first is passion. Without passion, a woman cannot build a career or a business. A few years ago, I did a cover story for Business World magazine about corporate women. And I met a lot of women. All of them had similar circumstances. They had, for example, children were young. They had to move around different cities or countries with their husbands. But those who were very passionate about what they were doing, they found a way to make it work. They didn't feel guilty about going back to work after 3 months or 6 months. Of course, they had to find a reliable support system. They had to create it. They had to have relationships and maybe caretakers, who could give them that opportunity. But once they went to office, they were not thinking, ki ghar mein kya ho raha hai? Has a child eaten? Has the, this been cooked? Has that happened? They were able to delegate successfully and keep their focus on their work during the work hours. That's really important. We have to learn to let go of things once we have created and enabled a support system. Then we don't have to micromanage and make sure that everything is perfect. Even if we were at home 24 hours a day, things would not be perfect. So if there is somebody else in charge, let him or her be in charge at the home place. So passion is very important, and it's what keeps people going, whether in a job and especially as entrepreneurs. Without passion, it would be very difficult for me to be standing here today. I started writing as a passion. I started writing when I was in college. And initially, to get published in Times of India was my dream. I was in second year BA, and every week I used to type out one article. We didn't have computers, so I had to type it out, and I would put it in an envelope and mail it to the editor of Times of India for the middle column. There used to be a column called middle. And along with that, we had to send a self-addressed, self-stamped envelope. So after 1 week, he'll put that article in that and he'll send it back to you with a slip saying, editor regrets, he cannot publish article due to lack of space. But I was like little crazy, so I used to say, "ठीक है, आज नहीं तो कल आएगा." तो मैं फिर से I would write one more article and I would post it. After 1 week again, it will come back to me. So like this, I think I must have sent around 40 articles, and 41st time, I think editor got, swayed, or he just liked it, or he just said he got fed up of sending my self-addressed, self-stamped envelope. So he published my article, and I got 100 rupees for this. And that 100 rupees is more precious to me than whatever money I might have earned after that as a writer. So only when you have a passion, when you persevere and you keep on, going for it and improving yourself, working on yourself, trying to get a break. So any woman, I feel, especially women, I'm not saying men should not be passionate, but men are a little more rational. A lot of times they see a business opportunity and they say, "हाँ, इसमें बहुत अच्छा scope है," and they get into it. From my experience and majority of women I've met, that's not their style of working or doing business. Secondly, I think excellence is really important. I mean, when we talk of leadership, if you're the best at what you do, in whatever you do, you will automatically become a leader. You know, you're not competing with anyone else but yourself. So, if you are passionate, you will keep on working on yourself, you will keep on improving yourself, you will be a thought leader, you will be a leader in action. When you're doing it, others will follow without questioning. So, I feel that once you are a leader in terms of excellence, then all the questions of being a man or a woman, they just don't matter. I mean, last year on Women's Day, somebody asked me, did you have a, is it difficult to be a woman author? I said, I mean, I never thought of myself as a woman author. My books, once they were published, they started selling, and, many publishers keep asking me, can you come and join us? So I never felt I'm a man or a woman. If your performance or your work speaks for itself, then this question of man or woman is less important. In fact, I believe it's not important at all, and that's why we're seeing so many women heading organizations, especially in the field of finance, where the performance is so measurable and visible. And thirdly, I think positive energy matters a lot. That's what ultimately people go to a leader attracted by that person's energy and enthusiasm. If they can transmit that down the line, that's what keeps people with the organization, that's what keeps the work interesting, that's what keeps the leader himself or herself in full, that's what really to me constitutes leadership. Because unless you have that continuing passion, continuing energy for what you do, you're never going to have other people who would like to be part of your team and would like to be part of your organization. So, where do you find the positive energy? Each and every woman has her own source. For many, it may be the family, for it may be some kind of spiritual practice, it may be being close to nature, being, doing yoga. So, I think we have to take a little time out for ourselves also, to recharge our own battery. A lot of times we are giving and giving all the time to other people, to our family, to our work, to everything, and the only thing we compromise on is ourselves. Like, we don't have time for ourselves, for our friends, for any activity which we like to do. So somewhere you should have half an hour in a day which you can say is truly yours. Maybe if it means to sleep half an hour less, but to have that half an hour to recharge yourself and put yourself back in the mode of being very positive and very energetic. So I can speak many more things, but I think to sum it up, I think every woman must have a rainbow to follow. This title, Follow Every Rainbow, is inspired by a song from the movie Sound of Music, which is one of my favorite movies. Actually, the song is Climb Every Mountain, but I couldn't somehow see that as the cover of my book, because I felt that women don't want to climb every mountain. Mountain is treacherous, dangerous, it is imposing, but the question is, why should I climb this mountain? Is this the mountain I want to climb? What is the cost of climbing this mountain? At the end, when I climb, will I be lonely at the top? What will I have achieved by climbing this mountain? So I think women don't so much want to climb mountains.